25/8 is in the business of time. We help leaders of small and medium-sized businesses work smarter, not harder, so they feel like they have an extra hour in the day and day in the week. Go from don't know what I don't know to I can't miss this show, as we talk proven strategies, practical tips and insider insights from a diverse range of industry leaders. Make time to grow your capabilities and confidence with 25/8. When we're passionate about something, we just get started and then we want to help others too. Soon we've gone from passion to something much larger. Welcome to this episode of Make Time, where we're going to hear the journey of an actual rock star to rock star entrepreneur. I'm your host, Sam, and I'm passionate about helping you and your business thrive by working smarter, not harder. And thank you for joining me on this episode. Let me intro our guest today. Cam Bird is a rock and metal recording artist and founder and lead teacher of Cam Bird Music. Cam Bird Music offers online and in-person guitar lessons. It's ideal for those who want a bit of support to start playing better than they ever dreamed of. Welcome, Cam.
Hey, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Yay. So it's always very exciting, as I say, to have a rock star in the studio. Cam and I know each other and we've worked together before, but I know Cam's story is going to be really interesting for everyone to hear. Cam, tell us where it all started. Where did this dream begin? And talk to us more about what your expertise is, what your passion is.
Sure. So for me, it all started back in primary school. My mum and dad bought me my first guitar. They picked me up from school, and in the back of our Commodore station wagon, Dad said, have a look. And there was a guitar case in there with an acoustic guitar, just a sort of cheap and nasty one that we call a beginner guitar, maybe might be better phrasing for it. So it really started at that point where mum and dad made that investment for me, which is what a lot of people do for their kids, because I think inherently we all see the value in learning an instrument. If we haven't learned it as an adult, we wish we did, and we wish that our parents did it for us. But basically, I started playing guitar when I was quite young. I didn't really take to it. And a lot of that was around, I guess, the education at the time. It was pretty tough back then. There were only really these tab books available that you had to save up a lot of money for, and they were often wrong as well. So as a kid, I'd save up for a Metallica tab book, and that might have costed me $70 or something back then, which was a lot of money. And then you open it up and you start playing along thinking that your world's about to change, and then the transcriptions were actually dead wrong. And technology's come a long way, so it's a lot easier now, and it honestly is the best time ever to learn guitar because there's so much. So out of the dark ages, I then went to secondary school, and I was in some group classes, and I really wasn't doing well, and I didn't feel like I was thriving in that environment. And then one day a flu came through the school, wiped everyone out, and it was just me who rocked up at the guitar class that day. And I'm out standing in the cold, wondering what's going on. The teacher's not there. And then this guy rocks up. His name was Mr. Barron. Mr. Barron's like, hey, man, you here for guitar? And I'm like, yeah, a little timid, a little shy because I hadn't been enjoying it. I wasn't doing well. And he's like, cool, looks like it's just you and me today. Come on in. So Mr. Barron kind of opens up the classroom for me. I don't know this guy, but he gets out his guitar and he's like, dude, I'm going to start a little different today. And he goes, what do you love? What do you actually want to learn? Right. And I'm a little bewildered by that question because that wasn't the approach of these other classes that I was going to. It was sort of a more structured and set curriculum that really benefited the teacher, but not me as a student. And as a kid who was kind of into metal and hard rock and more, I guess, aggressive music. So I said to him, I'm like, I like Blink-182. I like Creed. I like Metallica. And he's like, cool. What's your favorite song? And I'm like, I don't know, I like all these ones. And he goes, okay. He pulls out a tab for one of my favorite bands, and he actually starts teaching me one of my favorite songs straight away. And I'm like hooked, and I am just like, what the hell is going on, right? Like absolutely blown away.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes, "Have you ever tried to jam and solo and improvise?" And I'm like, "No." So he goes, "Okay, learn this." And he teaches me my first scale, a pentatonic scale. And he goes, "I'm just going to play some chords underneath you, but I want you to play over the top of me and just kind of jam and go for it." And that lit something on fire in me. It was like a real creative thing at that point. And I was like, wow, I can kind of do what I want out of this. I can create. I can sort of like, yeah, this can be this tool for me to express myself. And Mr. Barron was like, yeah, dude, it can be whatever you want. So I literally ran home from school that day to just go into my bedroom, plug in my amp and my little effects pedal, get out my guitar, and I just jammed for hours. I was pumped. And I still remember, like, to this day, the effect of that single lesson of just seeing someone who actually wanted to engage with me and what I was passionate about as a kid. And it doesn't matter how old you are, right? We're all passionate about something, and you obviously help people with businesses and you're amazing at it. And that was kind of then my thing as I got older. I went through a journey, played in bands, was lucky enough to tour overseas and you know, release records and do all sorts of cool stuff. And then there came a point where I guess the mantle was handed over to me to start to be a teacher and a mentor. And it was just the right time in my life to do so. And then that philosophy really stuck with me at that point where I was like, you know what? Like, I think I can do something here where I can focus on what people are passionate about. I don't have to do a cookie cutter sort of set curriculum, kind of boring, you know, teacher out of music school thing, because that's not what I wanted. And that's not what a lot of people want, actually. And that because I've had a lot of success with metal and sort of heavy music and always been into that, there have to be other people out there like me. And I don't think there's many people servicing that audience and that crowd. So that was really where it all sort of came together for me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for that. I'm going to give it a red hot crack. And then I was right. And as they say in business, you only need to be right once.
Hmm.
Yeah, I kind of found my audience, and whether it's adults, I've got kids as young as 10 as well, who literally have almost had the exact same experience with me, where they've come in, they're not doing great, they're not enjoying it, they love guitar, but they don't like their lessons. And then I've got a little kid, Mo, who came to me in his first lesson, and I said, "What do you want to learn, buddy?" And he's like, "Metallica?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
Metallica, man." And we've been, you know, Mo has been with me for 2 years, and now I've got him playing Metallica guitar solos. And he just went and saw Metallica the other week when they were in town here, and just he is on fire and he's absolutely loving it. And he's got something very special in his life at a young age that will teach him a lot of life skills. And his parents are just absolutely rapt that he has that, and they've kind of given that gift of music to him because they didn't have that. And it's really cool to just see him grow and evolve both as a human and as a player. And music really tends to stimulate growth at a very deep level for
Mm.
people no matter what age, and that's what I love the most about it.
Yeah, amazing, Cam. So inspirational. And thank you to Mr. Barron. Hey, so did he take the lessons after that or
No, it was just a once off.
so oh, that's like fate. I
It
love
is. It
it.
really
Yeah.
is. And I've had
Yeah.
a couple of moments like that. I've had a lot of very great mentors and teachers over the years. And I should actually track down Mr. Barron, but it was just one of
Mm.
those hard ones because it was only one time. I've stayed in touch
Wow.
with most of my other teachers. But
Yeah. Yeah. If
yeah, it
you're
was.
listening, Mr. Barron, what a difference you made.
That's right. Yeah,
That's
you.
it.
Yeah, you're responsible for creating this, man. You know, whether
Yeah.
that's a good or bad thing, it's on you.
Yeah, amazing. But did you, you know, like I'm sure lots of young boys at that age with a guitar would have dreamt of being on stage. Was that the dream, Cam? The dream wasn't necessarily teaching, which is where we're at now. Tell me the journey that you took with music from that moment on.
Yeah, sure. It was pretty much to be the next Metallica,
Mm,
right? Now that is a very, very lofty goal. And, with musicians, we can tend to be a little bit out of touch with reality sometimes. We are dreamers. Um, like the reality of getting to that level of Metallica in particular, the biggest band on the planet, the most successful rock band of all time, and just the insane level that they're on. And they're doing what they love. They're playing to 50,000 plus people a night, and they're in the moment and they're expressing themselves. So that was the dream. And I think every musician aspires to that, but it's very, very hard to achieve that. So my advice with people is it's look at what is intrinsic in that experience. So it's not so much the mega success of the money and all of that say Metallica have, but it's the ability to express yourself. And it's the ability to experience freedom through the instrument and freedom of expression. And that in itself is the success. And if you get to do that and get to do that every day, that's amazing. If you then get to monetize that and turn it into a career and a profession like I have, that's incredible as well. But it's the higher up you go, the more rare it is and the harder it is. And you have to really be built a certain way to have that success. And you have to have an intersection between creativity and the business side and the entrepreneur side. And that is extremely rare, especially with creatives. Creatives can be amazing at creating stuff and getting stuff from the inside out, but then are horrible on the business side or the entrepreneurial side. So you've got to find that balance. And I really tried to nurture that within myself throughout my career of going out of my way to study business, to learn entrepreneurship, to jump into sales environments and learn how to sell, to try and study marketing, because I knew if I had those skill sets, I'd be able to navigate an industry like this. So I did. I aspired to be like Metallica and wanted to do that. And I got a band to an international level. We went over to Japan. But with each level of success with bands in particular, there is added pressure. And that pressure will expose the cracks within that band. And bands are very tough because getting 5 guys on the same page, personality clashes, egos, and not much money at the start. It's hard work. So at each level, that pressure can make it collapse. And for us, we got to that international level. And then after that, it sort of fell apart. But it was amazing to get there. And I have some incredible experiences from that. I learned a lot from that and was like, okay, cool. Well, I've got to evolve how I do things. And I also have to eat. I have to make money. I have to live. And there are a lot of musicians out there who might be in some massive bands and have some success, but you don't know their personal circumstances. A lot of them might be living with mum and dad still, even though they're out playing to, small stadiums every night. That can be quite a common thing. I didn't want to be one of those guys. I wanted to really have a successful life where I get to do what I love. I'm protected financially by an economic model around me. And I get to help people and help create other people's dreams and passions and be a part of nurturing that and helping actualize other people's potential. It's changed over time. I'd still, if Metallica called me, yeah, I'm like, sorry, Sam, I got to go, right? I'm on that plane straight away, but I don't know if that one will happen, but this is the beauty of the creative industry. You don't know what's going to happen, and that can be a terrifying thing, or that can be an incredibly exciting thing as well. I would say for the last couple of years, I've been more focused on the teaching side, just with how my life's been. I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to have a really good environment and have things set up with my partner. And the beauty of teaching is that you can teach as little or as much as you want. You have that freedom. And there's a pretty good market for it if you know how to position yourself within it. And if you're professional and help people, you got to do those things. It's not all about you. And COVID really threw a big spanner in the works for me. Before that, I was out more as an artist. My last gig was March 2020, a week before the lockdown in Melbourne. And I just kind of knew that it wasn't a good time. I was watching colleagues in bands and they were having some hard times getting caught up in lockdowns, having their gigs cancelled, even getting fined going interstate. Really wasn't a great period to be focusing on that and trying to build a band and tour. And even the international bands weren't doing that as much anymore. So now my split has shifted and my focus is going a little bit more back into the artistic and the creative side, where I've got a new album that I've been working on. We've just finished production for it and we'll be looking at launching that next year. And then I'm also doing a lot more creative work within the guitar industry, where we're doing demos, and I'm a presenter for a company called Noisegate. So I get a little bit of both now, and if that keeps going in the direction that we think it's going to go, it should open up more creative opportunities for next year as well.
As a musician, you know that the reality is that it's not always, penthouses and limousines. And so you needed stability as well. So you started to identify a need for another stream or some other way for you to make money. So talk me through the process that you went through to go, okay, well, this is what I think I should do.
Yeah, I guess I got tired of feeling like Batman. And what I mean by that, every boy wants to feel like Batman, but not the working a day job and then having a different life by night, right? That's the reality for most musicians for how they have to support themselves. I was working in sales environments and learning business, and I loved helping people. I loved that side of like watching people grow and helping to motivate them and inspire them and doing all of that. But I didn't really like working for other people, to be honest. Not feeling like I had autonomy or the ability to make creative decisions, and sometimes actually knowing a good decision and then maybe dealing with a business owner who can't see it, or like it's like a band in itself, but you got to do what you got to do because you're getting paid. So, COVID happened, and then I didn't know what I was going to do because I lost my role at the time, which a lot of people went through. And I used that time to basically be like, okay, I'm going to pivot. All I think about is guitar every day. I love the business side. I feel like I've got enough of those skills for now. And I think it's time to try and find a happy medium where I've got stability, I've got support, and I've got the opportunity to play guitar every day. And then also combine that with my passion and love of helping people and helping motivate, inspire them, and seeing people grow and change. I love that. So that was the real turning point for it. And I worked my tail off in building the business. And anyone who has been through that transition of the first probably year, 2 years, understands how hard it is, and that you have to balance that sometimes with maybe working a job or other commitments so that you don't starve. So I went through all of that, but it was just the right time in my life where things came together and it did very well, and it exploded relatively quickly within 6 months, I'd say. And then, it actually kind of took off even more than I wanted, where it's like suddenly I'm jammed 6 days a week, and it's like, okay, I've got to keep up with this thing, and I've got to maintain my health. I've got to maintain my relationship. I've got to maintain even just my own guitar playing. I have to practice every day, right? And stay sharp and, kind of look after myself, because you've got to walk your talk if you're a mentor. Like you can't be the overweight PT or the skinny chef.
Yeah.
So
what do you think, sorry, Cam, what do you think led to, before we get to where you're now and that so successful, what do you think was the turning point, or why do you think it was so successful? What did it trigger?
I think the main thing was just actually really finding a niche, and also looking at the market and understanding what already works. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. And that's something that I struggle with as a creative, and other creatives might as well, thinking that we have to just have this brand new original concept. But there are other guitar teachers out there. There's something that already works. There's a market. It's proven. How can I then create a niche inside of that market that fits me, that I can capitalize on? So, it was like, do I think I can do this for metalheads? Thing came out, because most people who teach metal only go to the extent of maybe Metallica's Enter Sandman being the heaviest song that they know or teach. That's not heavy, right? That's gateway, entry level, day one type thing of heavy music. And that then creates a lot of dissatisfaction for people who actually really love heavy music and listen to it all the time, go to gigs and know everything about it, but maybe have that dream inside of them to pick it up and play it. It was that intersection of those two things of really looking where there's people doing well, yes, and then okay, cool, well, how can I enter into that game, and instead of just straight up copying someone else and doing what's already been done, how can I innovate a little bit, and how can I sort of put my own spin on it? And then it's like you got to just go for it. It may work, it may not, right? Okay, I'll give it a crack, type thing, which most business owners do. We wouldn't start it if we didn't have that. That's where it gets fun, and that's where you strap in and you see. But then you also need to listen to the market and to what's coming through. That was a real learning experience for me, because I was like, wow, okay, this is where I thought people would be at, but this is where they're actually at. So it's sort of like coming to reality a little bit, and sometimes slowing yourself down and really listening to that feedback, not the direct feedback that comes out of the customer's mouth all the time, because that's not always reliable. It's emotional, and people think they know what they want or need, but it's their behavior that's the strongest indicator of it. So it's listening to that and listening to those little whispers. Then from there, it was just tailoring to that. And I feel like business is basically a constant game of that, of, hey, let's try something. I think I've done enough market research here to position myself. Let's go, and then let's see what comes back, and listen to it and see the behavior and see the feedback, and be a little discerning with that feedback at times, because you can't always rely on people with what they say, but look at the behavior and then use that behavior to then further innovate or pivot if you need to, if it's not working. And be okay. Be okay if it's not working. Just keep going, right? Like keep chipping away, and you'll get there, right? But don't stay stuck in that.
I think they're incredible points. You know, a lot of the time people don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what they want. They think, even in a survey, they'll say what they think you want to hear. So it really is looking at data and behavior. But one of the things I think that you did really well was to get yourself out there. So talk to me about how social media channels or having an online presence helped in those early days.
It was massive in the early days. I can't understate how important it is, because sometimes it's all you have when it's just you. You may not have those connections yet. You may not have those relationships, those joint ventures, the partnerships. You may not have the credibility to create those things. And that's okay, right? You have to start somewhere. So social media it's super democratic. Anyone can do it, right? It's just a matter of maybe overcoming doubts and fears, imposter syndrome, all those things. But you've got to connect in. And this is something that when we met, you were amazing at, in sort of reigniting in me, Sam, was you've got to connect in with your purpose and the why and what you're actually doing. And then spreading that out from here internally into those channels. So that could be you start jumping on YouTube and you start talking about whatever it is. If you're creative like me, it's maybe guitar, and it's maybe covering some songs, or giving a lesson. Maybe it's just giving an example of what you do and talking about why you're doing it. And that could be anything. If you're a mechanic, you can jump on YouTube and teach how to change a battery, right? And there will be people that will watch it. And, if you put enough of yourself into it as well, then people will resonate with it and they'll be attracted to it. And then they're smart enough to then kind of be like, oh, what else has this guy got?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there more? Right? Like, because I like this. And okay, you'll deal with the occasional hater, and there's nasty people out there and stuff.
How did you deal with that initially?
That was hard for
Yeah.
me for a long time, especially when I was more focused on the artist side, because I am pouring my heart into my art, and I'm expressing myself in a very exposed and almost naked way, right? And people can just come in and tear down 6 months of hard work with a single comment that's really, really mean and nasty. Now, there's all sorts of different strategies, but I think for me personally, and of course, if this doesn't resonate with, whoever's watching this, that's okay. You've got to find your thing. But what worked for me was, imagine your social media is basically your shop. Would you allow someone in your shop to start trashing it? Would you allow someone to come in and start abusing you or your stuff? Would you allow them to come in and start bad mouthing, what you're doing, or, your logo or your products or whatever? No, you wouldn't, right? You'd kick them out, and rightly so. That's not acceptable behavior. So I have that sort of a policy online now as well, of like, it's a no a-hole policy, excuse my French,
No, like it.
but I just do not deal with it. I have zero tolerance for it. If you want to go and be like that in the world, that's cool. Do it elsewhere, because I want to invest my energy into good people. And I want to invest my energy into people who I deem are worthy of my energy. And that's not a elitist type thing. That's just, I want to hang out with cool people who want to grow, who are positive, who kind of reciprocate my values in some way. And I am not that sort of a person who wants to jump online and wind people up and tear other people down. That's not in me. I don't like doing that. I don't like spending time with people who want to do that. It's not my vibe. So my policy now is no a-hole, and also just a block and ban, right? It's like, cool, I don't appreciate that. Go elsewhere. You're not welcome in my shop.
Yeah, I love that shop analogy.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that you did well, I love that policy too. It's really clear, but you showed up, your shop was open, you were there every day, so people could come and see you. And I think that's something people forget, is that you can't just have a shop. You really have to be there every day, and your consistency paid off.
Yes,
do you think?
it did.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's led to other opportunities, especially in the early days. It got me clients off of Twitter initially, because I had a pretty good following from my artist days on there. And it was great for the American audience. Instagram, I've had, clients come through there, Facebook. And now I get a lot through YouTube. And I think YouTube's very effective because people are on there for that intention of learning. So I can position myself like, great, hey, let's learn this song. And people go, oh my God, there's a guy that teaches Parkway Drive. What? Right? And then it's playing into that thing that we spoke about before with the market position of my specialty and everything. And then, oh my God, I can't believe he's done this song too. And they start to then kind of want to follow me. And eventually, with enough rapport built up, they'll reach out. And then I can figure out what service I want to provide them or product at that point. So I think the thing that holds a lot of people back is just that fear. But I like a little bit of a nihilistic approach here of like, no one cares.
Yeah.
Right. So no one cares in a good way or a bad way. Right. Like, and if they do, great, they're probably going to become a client. So it's a win. And if they don't, cool, no a-hole policy, block and ban.
Yeah.
Right. Like if they're going the other way where they care negatively, like get rid of them. Don't need them in your life. Right. You've got a bigger purpose to bring forward as a business owner. So focus on that.
Yeah, and that's awesome, Cam. Testament to who you are and your values is that really fast growth. But with fast growth comes other challenges, and time, health were definitely one of them for you. What happened, and talk us through the challenge, and then talk us through how you're managing to overcome and think about how this now becomes a bit more than you thought, but also more manageable, to have that balance, to still be creative and have the white space that's really important.
Yeah, sure. So when we met, Sam, I was pretty much in a place of like, I don't think I could keep doing this at this capacity. This is crazy. 6 days a week, right? Like, and I'd achieved some cool things. I bought the house and really felt like I'd put roots down and everything. But then it was a reassessment point for me of being like, well, I've been grinding. I've worked every public holiday and 6 days a week for the last couple of years. And business owners will understand that grind and how that feels. And just that little thought in the back of the head of like, oh man, it'd be so much easier to get a job, right? Like, but grass is always greener type thing. And we have an opportunity when we're entrepreneurial and we're creative where we can reinvent our business and we can then have a reassessment point. But we need a little bit of space, and the time to do that was to actually carve that time out for myself as a business owner and be like, what do I want? Because like I'm so focused on other people and it's been very successful. And it's not that I'm not grateful. It's just that I need time back and I need some energy poured back into me. And it was an amazing experience for me where I was able to do that. I was able to kind of really reconnect with my passion and my why, but then also connect in with what the problems were for me at that point. And each stage of business has different problems. We have an opportunity to address those problems however we want. And that's another thing I loved about the program was that it's not this one size fits all thing. It's very much listen to your business and figure out what you want to do with it rather than the online guru, use this. It's the only thing, right? Buy it for $997 today type thing.
I must have learned from a Mr. Barron as well, I think, in
I
that,
think so.
follow your interests.
Yes,
What
definitely.
lights your fire.
Yeah. So, and there are multiple people in that position who are feeling really burned out, exhausted, and it's not much fun doing that because running a business is very hard. And, being in the creative industries is hard too. You've got to be cut out for it and you have to be built a certain way. But I think if you're listening to this, you will be built a certain way because you wouldn't listen to it otherwise, right? So that was the challenge for me. And then it was a matter of just stepping back, creating that white space that you spoke about, and then being like, okay, well, what do I want next? What's the vision from this point? How do I want my life to look in the next 6 months, 12 months and onwards? And then really having the discipline to continually carve out that time as a habit and slowly chip away at those things and be patient with it because it takes time to see the results come back. When you implement a new campaign or something, it takes time to have that data to come back through and that feedback. And you've got to be in that constant cycle of feedback, innovate, feedback, innovate, feedback, innovate. But you have to take care of yourself. So my health had deteriorated a little bit at that point. And I actually went down the rabbit hole a little bit and found out that I had arthritis. And I needed that space and a little bit more flexibility in my business to address my health and to work on it instead of just grinding and sitting in this chair for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And we've managed to implement some amazing solutions that have allowed that. And I feel like now we're peeling back new layers and there's a fresh thing coming through, and every couple of months there's a new layer that's peeled off and there's something new happening in the business that's more aligned with then the objectives and the outcomes that I set in that period of white space, really.
Yeah, that's it. One of the things that I really loved that you said at the end of the program, Cam, was that you no longer just saw yourself as a guitar teacher. You saw yourself as the CEO of your business. You're that business leader driving that forward. And sometimes it takes that mindset switch to go, okay, hang on a minute. I need to lead. I need to make decisions about where this is leading rather than a lot of the time we're so busy, we let things happen to us. And so, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but when you, as you were so busy and, you had so many in-person lessons and I was overwhelmed for you, the number of hours that you were putting in. So then, and I think sometimes it's really hard for us to consider anything else. This is just how I've done it. And so to take that step away and go, hang on, there must be a better way. There must be another way. And not that there's a quick silver bullet fix, but there's a way that you could transition to. And I asked Cam before we came on today, how are your hours looking? And they might still be but I feel there's definitely more balance and there's more creativity and there's less of the doing now than there was before because and it's not me or the program necessarily. It's really driven by Cam and what you want and your realization of how you can now operate your business and the things that you can do. And talk to us about some of those things. You have a hybrid model, you have online boot camps and a really exciting new partnership as well. Cam, talk us through what those things look like now.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is that the hybrid model. This is something I hadn't really seen out in the market, especially in Australia. I'd seen it maybe from one guy over in America. And with my industry, you tend to have to look at America. The best stuff comes out of there, right? But this was born out of was one of my students, Sam, fellow business owner. He was a boxing coach who now owns a hostel in Nusa Penida. He was very nomadic and he would just want to take off and do his thing on the road, but he didn't want to stop playing guitar. And that's the sort of person I love working with. They have very high commitment levels and they don't let life get in the way of the instrument. That's what it takes to succeed. You have to have an extremely high commitment level to it and to prioritize the instrument despite circumstances. And my people do that. And I love that. And, it's a reflection of how I am too. So Sam messaged me the night before a lesson where he was in Thailand and he was doing a Muay Thai camp, and we had been beaming into his little hut for a couple of months, and he was still kicking butt on the guitar. And then he said, there's a monsoon. I've got to ride back to one of the major cities tonight. I don't know if I'm going to make it, and I don't know if we're going to have Wi-Fi just given how the weather is. And I'm like, okay, cool. And Sam said, can you just shoot me some videos and tell me what to do for the week so I can keep going? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Cool. And it was born from that. And then I had another guy, Joe, who was a builder, very, very hectic life. And Joe would be like, look, I've got a bit too much on this week. Can you just shoot me a video and tell me what I need to do this week? And I'd be like, funny. This is me listening to the business, right?
Hello, fate. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a thing here. So, I basically tested that out on those guys. It was successful. I rolled it out a little further to a couple of other people, started experimenting with it and had good feedback on it. And eventually that turned into the hybrid model of teaching, which is where students will submit 2 videos to me. One will be a quick 2-minute video talking about their week, circumstances, a bit of a debrief like they would at the start of a lesson with me, maybe challenges that they've got, things that they want me to go over, questions, or just sometimes it's like, I feel like crap, like I'm not feeling great this week, or I feel awesome, like this is great, cool. Right? It's just a bit of a debrief. And the second video is an actual example of their playing and their practice and what we worked on the week before. It's accountability. It's also evidence of where they're at, but it's so that I can see what I need to work on as a teacher to keep them moving. I then review those and I send 2 videos back. The first one is a feedback and a review. Then the second video is then me playing and being like, these are your tasks for this week. This is what I want you to work on. And then I'll accompany that with documents. We call them guitar tabs in my industry, which are basically little exercises and things to work on. It might be a new song. So they get everything that they would get out of a one-on-one lesson, but more flexibility and less time involved for me as a business owner as well. And I can chunk those. I can do them whenever I want because my students are cool. We embed that in the one-on-one model. So if a student misses a lesson or whatever, it defaults to hybrid so that they don't miss out. And I feel it's a bit fairer than a cancellation where, I keep their money and don't give them anything. I never felt right with that ethically. So I still give them something, I still deliver. And then we now have a hybrid only model that we've rolled out. And it's been very successful. I've had a couple of guys over in WA. Given the time difference, it's amazing. There's a couple of guys who might have shift type work like FIFO or cops. And they have crazy rosters, paramedics, firefighters. And then there's just guys now that are like, I loved the boot camp and I had so much value from it. And they actually learned from that format without taking up my time. So I can just do hybrid with them and they love it. It does take a certain person, but with all those assets in place for people to learn about me and who I am online, I expect them to do that research and then to be able to make that informed decision of whether I'm the right guy for them or not. There's enough of that out there now. And then at some point, probably an online course. And then the other big opportunity was I've obviously been on camera a lot and I'm very comfortable presenting on YouTube and social media and everything. So I then was approached by a guitar brand and I've been endorsed by an American brand, but they were a bit more old school and their culture was a bit more old school. And they tended to really only focus on big name players. And then us little guys were kind of, like sort of brushed to the side a little bit. And I was getting a bit frustrated with feeling like I wasn't getting looked after or that there wasn't much of a future with this partnership that I had and that I just wasn't receiving anything in return, considering I'd sold a lot of units for them. So I aired out some frustrations to a couple of people in the guitar industry, and then ended up basically being like, well, dude, do you want to come and have a look at us? Because if you're doing all those things for these guys, we'd love to have you. And that business got bought out by essentially a billionaire in the industry. So he then goes, well, we're now part of that group. I'm going to introduce you to the group marketing manager and come on in. We've got a studio built into this new facility, and they need guys to come in and be on the social media and demo. And you're an aggressive player. We need someone to represent the aggressive brands. So I went in there and managed to strike up a great deal where my stuff is piggybacked off the back of their growth. I then have a paid gig to rock up and just basically do the presenting on camera and the playing. They edit it, they get everything done, and then my name and everything's going out to the industry. And with the international brands, it's getting pushed up the chain. So there's awareness on me, little old me down here in Australia. So there's some really good opportunities that have come of that. And then there's an album in the works, and that should tie into all of that, and hopefully my career up another peg next year.
Amazing. Can you show the guitar as well, Ken?
I can, yes. So this is my brand new Strandberg. So
Look.
yeah, they're a headless guitar, so they're a very unique design, and they're very innovative, and they're a Swedish brand that's very focused on innovation, and I love innovators and that kind of mindset. They're very focused on the here and now. So that's been very refreshing. And yes, so far they're treating me very well, and we're pretty excited for what's going to happen probably next year.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a journey, Cam. What a journey. It feels like it's still, it's like this is the foundations of the next level. I don't know. The Metallica thing could be on the cards. I don't know.
Look, I won't say no. I love that. But there's good stuff happening. And I think as a message to maybe other creators, like you can't just be a dreamer. It does have to be grounded in reality and sustainability. And a lot of creatives tend to focus on raising their ceiling instead of raising their floor. And I used to be like that when I was younger. I am now more focused on raising my floor. It's sustainable, right? You've got a good footing if you raise your floor and you focus on that. So then, yeah, some of those amazing opportunities might come along, right? But I'm not just Hail Marying for them and hoping and praying and in a place of destitution and desperation for it. I'm doing good where I am. So if an opportunity comes along, it's got to be better than this, right? And that actually gives you a bit of leverage and a bit of power in negotiation as well, if you can come from that place, because you're not desperate. So, you want to be positioned that way as a creative. And I don't think enough creatives do that. And then they can get in bad situations or get used, right, by managers or smarter business people. And
and you see that all the time, and giving things away for free for the exposure.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating that happens, and it should be a value exchange. And I just want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier about creatives, and creativity will be a fundamental skill that we'll all need as we advance technologically into the future.
Yep.
And being creative is a necessary skill. It's going to be needed. But I love the way that you see that, and not as a standalone, but, you're working with creativity, but with almost the reality of how do you create stability there. There's innovation, there's creativity, but there's the reality of ensuring that lives on, because if you can't do that, then you end up getting a job and your spot, or doing things. You don't get time to play the guitar. You don't get time to do your craft. So it really is about investing that time in yourself to build your skills. You don't have to be able to do everything, but just build your skills and knowledge so you can make those decisions about how to survive, how to then thrive. And it really pays off in the end.
It does. And you'll discover what you're passionate about if you do that, because you might be a freak at social media, but you've never tried it, right? And your business could blow up through social media, and then maybe you've got another revenue stream of helping other people with social media or something like that, right? And that's that listening part, but you've got to be pushing out there and then listening, pushing out there, listening, pushing out there, listening. You might discover that you're great on camera. I didn't realize I was, but then I go into the studio with these guys and start doing my thing, and they're just like this behind the camera, and I'm like, is everything okay, guys? And they're like, no, it's more than okay, right? Like, this is awesome, dude. And it's just natural for me, right? And it's win-win. And that's how business is done. Like, good business is everyone benefits. And then, I'm working with an extremely talented videographer who's way better than me at all that stuff. And I'm like, this guy's awesome. And he's like going, oh, this guy can present and play. This is awesome. I love working with him. And then the marketing manager is, a gun at all of the social media stuff and the strategy and everything. And I'm like, that's awesome. And he's like, that's awesome. Right. Like, so it turns into that kind of real collaborative thing, and you meet people on the same level as you, but you've got to be working on your level. And again, back to that floor analogy, you've got to be pushing that up at all times if you want to have those experiences.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also recognizing that you've got to be the one steering the ship, essentially. So you can get people in to support you in the areas that you're not good at, that they're passionate at. But it really, when it comes to your business, it's about you making the decisions about what to do and how to do it, and listening to your customers and how you respond, as you were saying there as well, Cam. So understanding that you are the one in control, that you have the power to make those decisions, and to say, I don't want to, I'm going to do it on these terms. You can still be creative and successful. You don't have to be a poor artist. That doesn't have to be the way. You can do it and do it your own way, do it differently.
Definitely. And there's never a better time. Something like Instagram is amazing for visual artists, right? I had a student who was a painter, and she blew up on TikTok and Instagram because she started painting on video, almost like those time-lapse ones of soccer teams, right? And then it blew up over in the UK because she was painting Liverpool, she was painting Newcastle, and it took off. There's opportunity everywhere. It's just a matter of aligning into the right thing and figuring out what that is.
Yeah. And finding your people and not being afraid, I think, to niche, to stick to your values, your love of aggressive metal or rock music, and not try and conform, because you're going to find your people.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's something that, you were really big on. Find your people, right? Like, and don't be afraid to speak your message and your truth and your values, because people will be attracted to that. The right people will. And it's true.
Yeah.
It's 100% true.
It's valuing yourself and what you can provide, and understanding the value of your time, and also the value of you still being creative and creating space to be creative as an input into your business, because without that, the business loses a bit of value too. So not to feel guilty for having time to be creative as well.
And then sometimes understanding where the revenue is. It may not directly be in what you think it is. So for me, creating the music itself, that's not actually where most of the money is. And you can look at it with Metallica. They create an album. Sure, they'll sell squillions because it's Metallica, but where most of the money is made is on the road when they're touring it, when they're selling t-shirts and merch and doing all of that stuff, when they're, selling $3,000 snake pit tickets and VIP experiences, right? So sometimes it's looking at where that, like in the pipeline, I guess, where the actual revenue is, and then sometimes how you can monetize it or find a secondary opportunity to monetize whatever you're doing. Sometimes you got to be smart and creative with it, with the economics.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the advantage of being a creative and having such knowledge and skills in business too, is that you've got that advantage over someone that's just got business, in that you can think outside of the box and come up with different ways of doing things. And we're very, very lucky to have Cam as an industry mentor for 25/8. And so our programs, our next level growth program, and all of the program offerings have the option of meeting with industry mentor, and you'd be very lucky to meet with Cam not only through his experience of building his business, but his knowledge of business and how he's invested his time. He's made time for his skills to grow and what you can learn from him. Plus, he is an absolute rock star. And thank you, Cam, for spending time with us today. And there's so much more that we can learn from you. Where can everyone find you online? Where's the best place they can find you?
Sure. Thank you so much for that, Sam. That was lovely. So my website is a good place to start, just cambermusic.com. YouTube as well is another great place. There's a ton of lesson content, playthrough content, all sorts of stuff up there over time. If you want to learn guitar or know someone that does, point them in that direction because, it has to be a good fit and not everyone is, and that's okay. So you want to do your research and figure out who I am, how crazy I am, all that sort of stuff, what I can play and actually do. And then from there, I have a free 7-day boot camp, which you can find on my website or through the links in my YouTube channel. And that will give you a pretty immersive experience of 7 days with me where you get emailed out every day, a little bit of a bump and a reminder to jump back in and do another day's work. Guitar's a commitment. It's very difficult, and the only thing I can relate it to is probably learning a language. And the fun is the reward. But people want the fun first without putting in the effort of the discipline and the structure and all of those things. And that's something that a good teacher will actually show you, is that you have to have all those things in place for it to be super fun and rewarding, because it is. But if you're not practicing every day, you're not doing all those things, it's not going to lead to that place. And it doesn't just start with picking it up and it being like a hobby, like, I don't know, archery or something, where you can kind of get most of it done at the get-go, or go-karting, right? You don't get that instant feedback from it. It takes time. So you've got to be prepared for that as well, and really look at it for the long term. And if it all works out, then you will have a relationship with the instrument like mine, where you've got it for life. And I think that's what we should all aspire to do as creatives or whatever, is have a lifelong relationship that keeps giving.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
And that expression, I loved the way that you described it as an expression of your creativity. So it's almost a melding of you and the guitar, and then your creative expression comes through it, which I think is incredible. So the boot camp enables that accountability for people to, often it's the first step is the hardest, and like good habits, if you can get through those initial steps, that's where real progress can be made. So the 7-day boot camp sounds like a good place to start, to get you into that, if you really love it, making time to build your skills and get that growth that you can get personally from that. It sounds cool. I know there's more to come from you, Cam, and I can't wait to hear how next year goes. And we'll probably make sure we keep updated and watch this space and watch the international stage for Cam as well, just in case he gets the call up with Metallica one day. But, I think you're going to earn your own place on your own stage, Cam, anyway. So I look forward to that day.
Yeah, we'll just keep working, keep raising the floor. We'll see where it leads.
I know that ceilings, it's gonna, raise the roof, Cam, as they say. Yeah, that'll be good. Thanks for joining us in this episode, and I'll chat to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Make Time, a business podcast by 25/8. If you like the show, please take a moment to write a review and feedback on what you'd like to hear next. If you never want to miss an episode, hit subscribe or follow on your favourite listening channel. If you want to get even smarter, join our newsletter, community, or take one of our programs. Links down below. See you next time.